my presentation today is titled Raise, Lift, Elevate, the number 8 Shaft Rehabilitation Project. I guess I need to ask first, has anybody been to the Soudan Underground Mine?
Oh yeah, in fact,
in this group?
we had, but we were down the Sudan at one of our conferences.
Okay.
Yep.
I did look back in the history and I saw that. Anybody else? I guess you could raise your hand.
I was there when I was at the University of Minnesota Mining School in the early 60s.
Oh my goodness. Fantastic.
Yeah,
So
on
some
the
of you-
Mining History Conference, we saw the mine and we saw that atomic
the
collector.
physics lab.
Yeah,
Yep, the physics lab. The physics lab is now decommissioned, so we are looking for renters. If you know anybody who needs a large football field-sized cavern with low background radiation. So a little bit about me. I actually grew up about a half hour from Soudan in a little community. I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. In a little community called Aurora, which is about a half an hour from Soudan. So I grew up on the Masabi Iron Range and moved to Ely, Minnesota for college. I attended a natural resources school in Ely called Vermilion, and that's where I met my husband. So I always tell people I went great places in life, from the Masabi Range to the Vermilion Iron Range. My interest in mining started when I was a junior in high school because my teacher for Iron Range history was Marvin Lampa, and he was a phenomenal storyteller. So that sparked my interest from the very beginning. After college, I worked here 5 summers as a mine interpreter, and then went on to become the executive director of the Dorothy Moulter Museum in Ely. RipYourLady.com. If you are at all familiar with the Ely area, she was known as the Rip Your Lady of Knife Lake. And I am hearing some background noise. I'm wondering if somebody needs to mute. There we go.
Bill,
I think somebody
Bill
might
Hawes,
need to mute.
please mute yourself.
There we go. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So after my stint as the executive director of the Dorothy Moulter Museum, the predecessor to this position left, and so I took advantage of this phenomenal opportunity and was hired last December. What's been going on at Soudan? For some of you, you may remember in 2011, we had a fire underground. There was some work going on in the shaft at that time, and some material caught on fire from sparks, probably from welding. And it was determined that a portion of the shaft would need to be rehabilitated. And as they really started to look at it, and I'm going to show you a video now, you can see why the project needed to be done. So this is a video taken of the lining of the shaft, and you will see areas that are absolutely just destroyed. I won't play it for too long, but take notice of the back wall in some areas. The back wall is looking pretty good in this particular shot. But you notice those beams are pretty rusted and pretty corroded. And in other areas of the shaft, there were tamarack timbers that when they dried out are just in paper thin layers and highly, highly flammable and volatile. So it is going to be such a relief when this project is completely finished. I'm trying to see if there we go. You can see that's a particular area where that corrugated steel has just absolutely rusted away. And now this is a video of oops. So it's a dirty job, but somebody had to do it. I took the picture this past winter of this young gentleman as he was cleaning out, and you may notice a significant difference from when that video was shot to this day in the winter. They worked 12-hour shifts, and there were 2 shifts, so operations 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. Fortunately, these guys are all union, and so they we're getting overtime pay. Our hoist operators are pretty happy right now too, because they were also getting overtime pay, but you could not, overtime pay would not have worked for me. Considering hoist operator would start work at 7 in the morning, be on call, and then work till 7 at night, and then I feel so sorry for the hoist operators that would come on at 7 at night and work till 7 in the morning, just in the dark of the night, especially in the winter. Give these construction workers an incredible amount of credit for the hard, dirty job. Just the removal of the pile was unbelievable, of just the debris and the mud that was in areas of the lining of the shaft. So what they have done is they removed, the mining company would line the shaft with whatever is cheapest at the moment, and so a big part of their job was, first of all, to remove some concrete plank linings, some corrugated steel that you could see was really in poor shape. They then put rock bolting in place and shotcrete so that we don't have to worry about the sides of our shaft having anything dislodge and fall onto the cage. And then, of course, we're building the steel beams that make up the encasement of the, trying to find my picture here. There we go. The steel beams that make up the encasement of the shaft. And so this is what it looked like, the existing conditions. And now they will be making it all pretty and shiny and new. And you can see the beam structure with the east cage, west cage, and then the utility shaft where the ladder is. Does anybody have any questions about this project?
Take it, it's not done yet.
It is not done yet. However, I am super happy to report that they just put in the last set of beams about 2 weeks ago. And I just read the October 13th construction meeting updated report, and it seems like everything is going as planned. There were no problems with OSHA. They have started to dismantle their large structures that were used to house them and house all their equipment and their temporary locker room, so to speak, and the area where they mixed the shot crate. So that has all come down, and it's very exciting to see those dismantled. They are awaiting inspections, and I do have a group of student engineering or engineering students from the Iron Range Engineering Academy in Virginia, Minnesota, scheduled to visit on December 4th. So I'm really hoping that everything, all the inspections come out just fine and we can get that wonderful group. I think it would be very fitting that we would have engineering students as our first tour group back underground for over 2.5 years. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that well, his name is Jim DeVries. He's the assistant manager at the park, but he also is nicknamed Frank because the manager at the park's name is also Jim. So if you might have noticed on his hard hat, it said Frank. We are very, very excited in the upcoming summer to be celebrating the 100th anniversary of our hoist. And one thing that I have been working on is a brand new exhibit. So if you have visited our mine, you enter our visitor center, which is actually the dry, and we have an exhibit space, and that exhibit space has never had a professionally designed interpretive exhibit. And it has been kind of hodgepodge, thrown together, borrowed from the Minnesota Discovery Center when they were done with an exhibit. And so I have been absolutely thrilled and honored to be a part of a over $500,000 remodel. I've done some phenomenal research, which has just deepened my knowledge of Iron Range history, and I know a lot about the immigrants of the area and the culture of the area. What I really did not know and what I've really enjoyed learning is more about the actual mining process and the technology. So in the course of this project, I've been able to really take advantage of that. And before we sign off, I'm going to tell you about the most interesting miracle. So are you all now looking at, I wonder if I can make this a little bit bigger. Can you see this photo pretty well of these 5 gentlemen sitting on a pile of timbers?
Yes.
Yep, thumbs
Yeah,
up. Yeah, so we had this photo for a long time and love this photo. The gentleman on the right's name is Frank Popish, and his son, Buddy, so Frank Jr., worked as 30 years as a miner, a taconite miner at Mintech, and then came and worked another 10 years here at the Soudan underground mine as a buildings and grounds worker. And we didn't know what was going on. This photo has always been kind of a mystery to us, as like, what's going on? What are they sitting on? Why are they sitting there? And why do they have their hard hats and headlamps on when they're on the surface? But we love the photo, so we decided to use it for the exhibit. So then I was tasked to find a quote to go with this photo. And I've been listening to hours and hours and hours of oral histories, and I tried to listen to them with some type of semblance and organization. But about 2 months ago, we had a mine engineer who worked at Soudan in the 50s and 60s for Oliver Mining Company, and he's still living, 94 years old. So his daughter brought him to the park, and it was, his name is Dan Hesterton. It was so wonderful to meet him and reminisce with him. And he had given an oral history in 1998. And I just decided that day to treat myself, and I was not going to go in order. I was going to jump ahead. And as I was listening to Dan Hesterton's oral history that was taken in 1998, all of a sudden I heard him say, I worked with a lot of those guys. Most of them felt they had an obligation, whether it be to the company or to the family. They enjoyed their work and frequently would talk about their work. In the spring of the year, even before they went underground, they would sit on the timber pile by the number 8 shaft in the spring of the year before their shift started, and they would talk about mining. They took pride in their work. And I freaked out, because not only did I get a quote for what I wanted this photo to share, but he explained what these guys were doing. It was spring. It's northeastern Minnesota. Tower, Minnesota, the little community next to Sand, holds the Minnesota state record of 60 degrees below zero on February. Oh, where's my little note? Anyhow, it was February 1996. And the reason these gentlemen are sitting outside on these timbers with their headlamps on is because it is spring and they've been sick of sitting to wait for their shift to start in the dry house. Instead, they're sitting in front of the head frame, talking about life, talking about the mine, and waiting to start their shift, and they are basking in the spring sunshine before they go underground. And this experience of looking at a photo from 1959, listening to an oral history taken in 1998, meeting the mine engineer in 2023 at 94 years old, and then needing a quote for this picture was one of the most memorable research experiences of my career. So I hope you will all come and visit. This is just a little sneak preview of the new visitor center design. And we're also doing a brand new 10-minute introductory film as well. Let's see, close that one. And then I end with thank you. So thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you,
you.
Sarah.
Thank you.
Just a quick aside, you mentioned Tower, Minnesota,
Yes.
named after Charlemagne Tower,
Yes.
who oddly enough, well, maybe not so odd because mining is mining, had a town named after him in Montana, Tower, Montana, just outside Phillipsburg. And so there are connections across the country, all tied in by Charlemagne Tower and mining.
Yes, he also has in South Dakota. There is a tower, South Dakota.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah. What a fascinating. I read his book, Iron Millionaire, just before I was interviewing for this position. And when I worked here from 2002 to 2006, that was before you really could access the internet at any time at work. And I had never read the book, didn't even know it existed. And so that was absolute thrill to learn more about his history. And apparently he has 150 boxes at Columbia University of his correspondence, and I would love someday to visit Columbia University and just browse through that information.
I did 3 projects at Mintac back in the 90s when Mintac was converted from a rail haulage to truck haulage mining systems.
Okay.
And then when I was underground there 60 years ago, what was interesting, I guess the thing I remember the most, somebody showed me a piece of diamond drill core.
Mm-hmm.
And that rock is so hard, the core
So
is
hard.
absolutely polished. And they were saying how little life they got out of the rock drill bits
Yes.
for doing blasting.
Yes. The drill shop was also 24 hours a day, having those drill bits come up. And oh man, that would not have been the job for me. I can tell you that. So my
Right.
dad actually helped build Mintac. He was a crane operator at the time.
Okay, well,
He grew up, my parents grew up in northern Wisconsin, and my dad came first to Aurora, Minnesota to help build Erie Mining Company. He was a welder. And then when Mintac was built, he was a crane operator there. And my father-in-law worked, Stan Levar was from Ely. He worked underground at the Pioneer Mine from 1943 until it closed in 67. And then he finished his career as a foreman at Mintac.
I grew up in Superior, Wisconsin, and my father was manager of a number of the coal docks in Duluth
Oh my
and
goodness.
Superior. So
Jack, if you don't mind, how old are you?
I'm 83.
So my
I
dad's
graduated from the University of Minnesota 60 years
Okay.
ago this spring.
My dad grew up in Superior. His name was Jack Guy, but he's older than you. He's 80, or he passed away, but he would have been 91 this year. But
Well, what's interesting, the irony of my involvement at Mintac was Daniel Jackling, when he started Bingham Canyon in Utah in 1906, he got a lot of the background for how to do it from the iron ore open pits. And I worked at Bingham back in the mid 60s, early 70s, and took my background back to Mintac to help them make the switch from rail to truck, which is what Bingham had just finished for the upper 2/3 of the pit there when I went to work there.
it's
So-
amazing the
So
innovation.
things there's a lot of closed loops in the mining industry.
Right, right. Well, just listening to the conversation before I got started, I like, you're my people. It's just so fun to hear about hoists and ladders and candle picks, and hearing where there may have been a mule barn, or I guess he said horse barn, but we had mules here at Soudan.
Any other questions for Sarah? And thank you all. Thank you, Sarah, for your talk and for being here tonight. And we'll see you
I
all.
really enjoyed myself. Thank you again for the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Good to see everybody.
Thanks, Sarah.
Come see
Okay,
us this
sure.
summer.
All right. Bye-bye.